start the designs for the cutout slab today. What I talked about before was creating these 3 or 4 designs, and then you're going to make 3 changes. And so these are the designs that I have, that I thought about, and you can see how I've changed them as I've gone throughout thinking about what I like about those designs. Okay, so you are starting with one aspect of this, and I'm thinking about what you would want to do. And so if I was going to do another one, if I think about something that's a pretty common one, I guess the square is pretty common inside of this. This tends to be one, just like I had talked about the circle, that is really common and very boring. Okay, these are all just simple shapes. Let's zoom in over here. And so there's nothing really exciting about this. So what we want to do is push ourselves beyond this and try and do something more. So I would, if I was going to change this one time, I might make these skinnier. Let's try that. So you have like this piece here, so you have something longer and skinnier. Okay, so that would look different. If I would change this again, I almost wonder what if I started with this and I had these long skinny ones like I talked about. I'm just going to overlap. What if I brought this part like out into this? So like I had like an X and I have those designs. Okay, so that's different than what I had. And then same thing, what if I did this, and it's not going to be symmetrical or super symmetrical, this is a sketch, right? And then what if I round these off? And I could make them pointed, or maybe I would make them like a teardrop shape. Okay, they could be either way, but they have more style. You can tell that this design's more refined than where you started at. Okay, so that's kind of where we're headed. But you've got to have this done before I will give you a piece of paper. Okay, that's just how it goes. So I'm going to go ahead and get my project out and show you this on my project. So I'm going to lay mine down. I wouldn't suggest you laying yours down. I'm just using this to demonstrate on, so it's not a big deal if something gets broken. There are 2 pieces of cardstock that I'm going to give you. I'm going to need all eyes up, guys. It's not respectful if you're not watching. Okay, so there are 2 pieces of paper. You have a 3x3 or a 2.5x3. In different places better. So if you were doing something in the center of this would be a good shape. Okay, you're not going to go all the way to the corners, but I would start with the square. If you want something that's down lower or up higher, then I would go with something that is a little thinner. Okay, so, and then sometimes it depends on if your design is taller or if it's the same height as it is wide. So if I were to look at this one, this is a good design. I am not all the way to the edges of this. I mean, I have a little bit of extra space. I have at least 1/4 of an inch in between, okay, most of the things here. You don't want to have things so close, this will break, okay, and when this is clay, this is going to fall apart. So you need to make sure that you have a gap between those so that this is going to actually work out and you're not going to end up making one big hole in your pot. Okay, it's not fun to have to fix it. You just want to make it right the first time. Okay, and then for some people, like this was a design from someone, First Block. they brought this up and I just said, it needs to be bigger. It's too small, okay? And so I kind of suggested, you know, you look at these pieces, they're gonna look a lot smaller once you cut them out. And so they went back to their seat and they did this again and just enlarged everything. Okay, so don't draw them so teeny tiny in here that you have to redo it. Okay, so a good trick for this, or something that I like to do, is if I'm making something that is symmetrical. So let's say that this is the design that I'm going to do. And so if I look at this, if I'm looking at like a quarter of it, I am not looking at this. Everybody needs to see it. This is making things faster, I promise. Okay, if you look at just a quarter of it, I'm just going to draw this part on my paper. And so I'm going to go ahead and fold it both directions. I'm going to fold up, and then I'm going to fold across, so I have like a plus sign in there to begin with. Okay, and then I'm going to know where I need to start and stop, and so I'm going to go ahead and draw. Move some of this. I am going to draw what I see right here, and so I'm going to go and do that one. And I want to make this big enough that I don't have problems like cutting this out, and I have at least a quarter of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this is all I have to draw. Okay, I'm drawing less than what I would if I were just to try and draw it all by like eyeball. So I'm going to go over this and make it a little bit darker. And this is cardstock, so this is like stronger, thicker paper, so it's going to take a little bit more to get this to transfer. But I'm going to fold this over, and if I just rub like this, I'm not going to get this to transfer over. If I use something to like burnish this paper, and so I'm using just the back of a wooden tool, you can see that I can get that to flip over, and I don't have to make up what the other side looks like. Okay, like it did it for me. So then I'm going to do the same thing, draw, and go back over this, and make this darker. If you don't like something, then this would be the time you want to change it. Okay, so then I just fold this in half, and then same thing. I'm going to burnish over all of this. And there's my design. And so I made myself look more talented, right? By just using part of it and just flipping and flipping and flipping. Like, it made it so much easier and so much faster. You would be there, or at least I would be here a while, trying to make this symmetrical. Why not just use, you know, a trick like this where you're holding it and getting it to work for you instead of you trying to work harder. Okay, so that's the design that I made. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. I have replaced these X-Acto knives so they're sharp. You need to make sure that you're cutting with these correctly. You're not going to be able to cut if you're holding this straight up and down and trying to go like that. You need to hold this where the paper is and the blade are more horizontal or parallel to each other. Okay, you can't hold it like this. You're going to have to hold it down like this. So my hand shouldn't be underneath it. I mean, I know this sounds silly, but I watch people every day. Like, I walk around and try and help people, and people are cutting like this. Okay, you slip and you're going to slice your hand. So make sure your hand is on the other side, and then you're just going to have to cut and press. You need a cutting board, so that's up here when you're ready. And then I would make sure that you're cutting on the same place. If you are cutting on the outside of the line, or if you're cutting on the inside of the line, you want to do the same thing, because it will change what your design looks like. If you need to recut, you can do that. Okay, so that's what my design looks like. I'm going to go ahead and put this on top of my pot, and I'm going to figure out where I want to cut this. Okay, and so I'm going to show you another version of this where I have one version already done and one that I can show to change, to show you what this would look like. So I'm going to put this on. I'm going to go ahead and trace. You could trace with your pencil. If you wanted to get something really thin, you could trace with this as long as you're not pushing really hard to where you're cutting, because it's really hard to hold something and cut. No, I wouldn't lay it down. Yeah, this is just so the video I can show you a little better. So that's the design that I've made, and this is what I'm going to cut out. I'm going to go ahead and trace it on this side too, because I'm going to show you just an option that is out there, because it's really hard to just explain. I think if I explain it, then I get lots of head nods that people understand, but I don't think they really fully see how different this will look. And if you're not doing anything like extra, it's just where you put things can change what your project looks like. So you could use a pencil, or, I mean, if you're not pushing very hard, this X-Acto. Okay, so I've got this on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and cut out the inside of mine on this side. And then I'm going to put it on the other side. So everything you cut out, you're keeping. And so you want to make sure that you're doing a good job cutting these pieces out. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the other side. And it's kind of nice because I have a guide on where this is going to go. You would want to score and slip this. I'm just going to press this here for at least right now so you can see what I'm doing. So cut out and attach. And now on this one, I'm going to cut out on this side and attach to the other side. So you can see that this piece would now, half of the design is popping up on this side, and half of it's cut out. And then with this one, half of it's popping up, but half of it's cut out. So it's the same thing. It's just where you cut out and where you attach is different. okay, where it could be all cut out